Hey everybody, this is Frilioth and welcome back to another Minecraft video. Today I'm going to try and explain how to make a door valid. Now before we get started, I just want to tell you that the information I provide here is valid for Java 1.13.1. If you need information about Bedrock or Windows 10 or consoles, then I'm afraid you're going to have to go and look somewhere else. This is purely for Java 1.13.1. Now if you've ever followed any of my tutorials on iron golem farms or villager breeders, you'll often hear me talk about valid doors. Having a door in the middle of nowhere doesn't make it a valid door. To start with, a valid door needs a villager within 16 blocks on the X and Z coordinates in order to validate it. So unless you have a villager within 16 blocks of a door, it will never be valid. So let's get ourselves a villager, a willing participant. That guy there now will scan an area around him looking for doors in order to validate them. So at the moment there are no doors anywhere near him, so there isn't a valid door. If I were to put a door down here, he still doesn't recognize that door because it doesn't have any blocks blocking sky access on one side of the other or the other. And the villager will, or Minecraft actually, the game will scan 5 blocks on either side of that door every 6 seconds or so to see whether or not there are any blocks blocking sky access. And it doesn't start the scan above the door, it starts a scan on the same level as the door. So at the moment, that's not a valid door. If I was to do that, that's still not a valid door because it doesn't count the block that's directly above the block the door is standing on. So that block there, all the way up to sky, will never be counted because it's the block that's directly above the door. So it's in effect it's irrelevant. It makes no difference whether that's sky or a block. It makes no difference at all. What it will scan for is the blocks that cover sky access on either side of the door. So those 5 blocks there and these 5 blocks here will all be scanned every 6 seconds or so by that guy to see if they're blocking sky access. And for that door to be valid, it needs a different number of blocks on this side than it's got on this side. So at the moment, there are no blocks blocking sky access. It's an invalid door. If I were to put a block there like that, that's now a valid door. Because on one side of the door, there's 1 block blocking sky access, and on the other side, there are no blocks blocking sky access. So that door's now valid because he's validating it. If I were to do that within a minute, because there's a cooldown period for villagers or for doors. If a door is valid, it'll take a minute for it to become invalid. So if I were to do all of that, that door would still be valid for another minute. Okay? But if I was to do that, then there's 1 block on the right hand side of the door blocking sky access. There's 1 block on the left hand side of the door blocking sky access. So within 60 seconds that door will become invalid, become invisible to that villager basically, because there are an equal number of blocks on one side as there is on the other. And they don't have to be joined to the door, so it doesn't have to be like this to make that a valid door. That is a valid door because there are 2 blocks on this side and there's only 1 block on this side. But if I were to do that, that is now an invalid door because we've got 2 blocks blocking sky access on the right, we've got 2 blocks blocking sky access on the left. That makes it an invalid door. So we're going to have a little quiz now. I'm going to stick down some blocks and you're going to say whether or not the door is valid or not. So is that a valid or an invalid door? Well done to everybody that said that's a valid door. Because we've got 3 blocks on this side, 1, 2, 3, blocking sky access. We've only got 2 blocks on this side, blocking sky access. Therefore, the door is valid. What about this one? Is that a valid door or is that an invalid door? Now that's a valid door. We've got one block blocking sky access on the right hand side, but we discount the one that's above the door. We have no blocks on the left hand side blocking sky access. So that is a valid door. Is that a valid door or is that an invalid door? That's an invalid door because we've got one block. Although we've got 4 blocks there, that's still only classed as one block. So we've got one block on the left hand side, we've got one block on the right hand side. There is an equal number of blocks on either side, therefore that is an invalid door. Now a door doesn't need sunlight directly on it for it to be valid or invalid. It's all about the number of blocks blocking sky access. So if you can imagine this, you're building a villager breeder underground or an iron farm underground and you need to validate a door. So let's just put blocks all the way across the top of it. I know this is only sort of 2-dimensional, so you'll have to bear with me. That door is underneath 1,000,000 tons of rock and you need to validate that door. Okay, so you need to make the number of blocks blocking sky access on the left different to the number of blocks blocking sky access on the right. If you were to do that and dig all the way up to the surface, that door will then have direct sunlight on it, but it will still be an invalid door because there will still be 5 blocks on the right blocking sky access and 5 blocks on the left blocking sky access, an equal number of blocks on either side of the door, therefore making it invalid. So if you want to validate that door underground, you need to choose a block within 5 blocks of the door on one side or the other and then dig up to the sky. And then that way there will be 4 blocks on the right, there will be 5 blocks on the left, therefore that would be a valid door. Invalid, invalid, valid, invalid, valid, because there are 4 blocks on this side, there are only 3 blocks on that side, valid door. Now Minecraft is only concerned about the doors that are either on the front or the back of the door. They're not concerned about any blocks that are to the side of it. So those blocks there on either side of this door are completely irrelevant. They're invisible. It doesn't make a difference at all to whether the door is valid. The blocks on the left or the right hand side of the door are irrelevant. And it's also only concerned about the direction of the door when you place it. So at the moment, if I'm standing here looking that way, I place the door down there, then those doors are on the left hand and the right hand side of it. As I said, they're irrelevant. If I then open that door, it looks like these blocks now are at the front or the back and they would come into play. But that's not the case. It's still only concerned with the blocks that are either at the front or the back. It doesn't matter whether the door is open or closed. It's only concerned about the door when it's originally placed. If I were to place the door there that way, then this axis would be valid. This axis would be invalid, even if I close that door. See, that door there looks like, if I put a block there, it looks like that would be a valid door. But it's not, because the orientation of that door is along that axis, not along this axis. So if you're not sure when you're building it, just break the door and then replace it. And whichever axis you're looking along, that's the axis that you've got to worry about having the blocks blocking sky access on. So just to recap then, in order for a door to be valid, firstly and most importantly, it needs a villager within 16 blocks of it on the X and Z coordinate. Without a villager there to validate it, a door will never be valid. And once you've got that, you need to make sure that there is a different number of blocks on one side blocking sky access than there is on the other side. And it doesn't have to be, as I mentioned, doesn't have to be above the door, doesn't have to be on this level. it can be on this level. So on the level of the door. So if there are an equal number of blocks, and the blocks don't even have to be on the same level. So if there are 2 blocks on the right as we're looking at it, and then we have 2 blocks on the left like that, that is still an invalid door, because there are 2 blocks on the right blocking sky access, and there are 2 blocks on the left blocking sky access. So they don't even have to be on the same Y level to interfere with the door. That door is an invalid door. That is a valid door, because 3 blocks on one side, 2 blocks on the other. If we were to put any other blocks on the end, they become invisible because they're outside the 5 block radius of the door. It will only count blocks 5 blocks on one side and the other. So any blocks that are outside of that range won't be counted anyway. So if we've got 1 block there and 1 block there, that's still a valid door because that block is outside the range, so there is no blocks on this side, 1 block on this side, therefore that's a valid door. Now finally, I just want to go over the direct sunlight aspect of this again. People think that a door needs direct access to light in order for it to be valid, but that's not true. So if I were to do this, that door there is in complete darkness. Now at the moment that's an invalid door because it's got 1 block on this side, it's got 1 block on this side blocking sky access, therefore equal number of blocks on either side. That door is now invalid, but it's in complete darkness. If I were to put another block there are now 2 blocks on this side and only 1 block on this side blocking sky access, but that is now a valid door. Even though it's in complete darkness, it's got no access to light at all, it is still a valid door. Because 2 blocks on this side, 1 block on this side. 4 blocks on this side, 3 blocks on that side, that's still a valid door. 4 blocks on this side, 5 blocks on that side, still a valid door. Even though the door is in complete darkness, it's still a valid door. So a door doesn't need sunlight on it or any kind of light on it in order to be valid. It just needs to have a different number of blocks blocking sky access on one side than it does on the other. So hopefully that's cleared up a few questions you might have about validating doors. Hopefully it's not confused you even more. Once you get the hang of it, once you understand the basic mechanics of it, it is very, very simple. It's just getting your head around it to start with. And hopefully this video will help you do that. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please don't forget to leave it a like. And if you've really loved it, don't forget to subscribe for future videos. This is Frilioth, and I'm out of here.